New report reveals Ruto'S office spent 2 million per day on printing services and 1 billion on advisors. Now, these are the full details to the story. The executive office of the president spent an average of 2 million per day on printing services in the last financial year. The office of the Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, has revealed. Now, the report, which flagged massive wastage in government, also showed that President William Ruto's office spent a whopping 1 billion on advisors who have since reached 20 in the Kenya Kwanza administration. Now, the National Government Budget Implementation Review Report for the financial year 2025-2024 has laid bare the government's expenditure of the total budget of 4 trillion in the year preceding the Gen Z protests that led to the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. And despite the pledges to reduce budgetary expenditures in unnecessary and wasteful spending to plug the deficit, it appears the government was on an overdrive to implement the contrary. Now, the report showed that out of its total budget of 4.6 billion, Harambee House spent a total of 817 million on government printing services alone, translating to 65 million per month and an average of 2.2 million per day for the services alone. Now, the services included paper used to print a government policy, executive orders, directives, proclamations transmitted to MDS, performance contracts, bi-weekly press statements, periodic government communication during times of crisis, regional media forums, among others. Now, the printing budget is also said to have gone higher due to the huge number of guests invited to State House for engagements with the president, which requires high-quality paper for the invitation cards. Now, the office also spent 1.9 billion for general administration, planning and support services, and 765 million on leadership and coordination services. Here, full details to this story. And from that now to Kalonzo slams Ruto, calls anti-government war a sham. Wiper Patriotic Front leader Kalonzo Musyoka has criticized government's anti-corruption campaign, terming it ineffective. Kalonzo says President William Ruto's administration has been plagued by scandal after scandal, turning the country into a fortress of corruption. Now, he insists that only the opposition coalition can take decisive steps to end a graft that threatens to completely stall education and health provision in the country. Here are the full details from the story.
One term. Scandal after scandal, and attempts to sell off Kenya's crucial infrastructure on the cheap are the modus operandi of this disgraced regime. Education, for example, is in shambles from primary through to the university. The 10.6 billion shillings was embezzled to non-existent hospitals and fake patient files, while legitimate hospitals, many of which were founded by missionaries and faith-based groups years before independence, were forced to close due to unpaid genuine claims. This is inexplicable. They must stop the nonsense. And they want to build a road through Karura. Please stop Karura. Don't deal with Karura Forest. There's a clear agreement between the Forest Association and KFS. We cannot have this country go backwards. As the government in waiting, we will insist on the perpetrators being tried for crimes against humanity. This rot is not just limited to the healthcare sector. The e-citizen government platform for handling public funds is a haste.
And away from that story, now to Kiharu, Member of Parliament and Ndindi Nyoro warns of possible public school shutdown over delayed capitation funds. And Kiharu, Member of Parliament and Ndindi Nyoro has warned that if the government does not release pending capitation funds, learning in public schools may be disrupted when classes resume Now, speaking during one of the graduation ceremonies of Gorgeous Technical Institute in Thika, Kiambu County, Nyoro stated that schools ranging from primary to senior secondary are facing operational challenges as a result of delayed government disbursements. Now, even as the schools have already reopened, this still remains a challenge as school heads lament. Here, full details to this story.
Wakati huu walimu wakuu wengi wako na shida sana hata kukaa shuleni. Baadhi ya walimu wakuu hata wanajificha kwa sababu suppliers wanawasumbua. Wakikaa shuleni bila hizo fedha kufika ni vigumu sana. Simu ni nyingi sana. Wengi wetu, baadhi yetu tunabadilisha hata simu, namba ya simu kwa sababu tunasumbuliwa sana na suppliers. Na shule kadhaa zimepelekwa kotini pia.
Even last term, what was given to schools was only 15%, and 15% remained. We are calling upon the government to make sure that the arrears that have been there, because in every year, arrears are there. The government is not paying full.
Kuna bidhaa ambazo tunastahili tununue ili tutumie katika masomo for practical subjects. Hatuwezi tukanunua bila hizo fedha. Na baadhi ya suppliers ni wagumu sana kwa sababu shule nyingi ziko na madeni.
Principals have nothing to they must adhere to the directive of the government. But now this once the parents hear that kind of directive, they don't pay a single penny. They just go to schools and demand the certificates of their pupils, their students.
We are worried, and if you want to destroy a generation, take chances with education of that generation. I think the way the government is going is wrong. Everything now in education sector is in chaos.
And away from that story now to Governors Barchok Wangamati arraigned and released on bail in graft case. Now, Bomet Governor Hilary Barchok, former Bungoma Governor Wycliffe Wangamati, and 20 other suspects and entities have been charged with alleged procurement irregularity offences involving millions of shillings in road maintenance and bridge construction works. Now, the suspects pleaded not guilty and were released on bond and restricted by the court from making public pronouncements about the cases, with the mention of both cases scheduled to commence on 17th and 18th of September, respectively. Here are the full details to the story. Land fighters boast of seizing farms in Mandera and even thank Kenya for the warm welcome. As citizens flee their homes and the government maintains an ominous silence, this is no isolated incident. From classrooms in Mandera turned into barracks to fishermen gunned down on Lake Turkana, Kenyans are left to bury their dead and abandon their homes as the officials looks away. Now, the president is keen on politics. The CDF is missing in action, while the defense cabinet secretary is only seen on the lawns of State House during cabinet meetings. That is a story that you'll find on pages 4 and 5 of the Standard this morning. Now, Kenya is our friend and has accommodated us well since early August after a fight broke out between us and the federal government forces who invaded our bases in Belet Hawa. Now, we have no problem with the people of Mandera, a Jubaland fighter. And I have moved my 92 years old husband to Suftu together with our children on a day mid last month when the village turned into a battleground for Juba land and Somalia National Army. That is Fatuma Abdullahi Husseini, resident of Mandela. Now the president and the cabinet secretary for defense and the CDF Kairiri are all pictured in the Standard this morning. What next for the residents of Mandera, sorry. And away from the Standard now to Daily Nation. Why Ruto Raila saved Sakaja? 1. Worry about disruption poll campaigns in the capital city if governor and deputy are ousted. And fear of a showdown with the former DP Rigathi Gachagua in by-election and impact on 2027. And also concerns broad-based government critics exploiting Ulster plot to derail Unity Pact. And those are some of the reasons why Raila Odinga, or William Ruto and Raila Odinga saved Sakaja. Those are the reasons given by the Nation, and you can read extensively about them in the Nation this morning. Among other stories, after 45 billion NTSA deal, tycoons eye sugar trade. All right, and businessmen Farid Abdul Razak Sheikh and Jabir Abdul Nasir Al Kandi, who are eyeing a 45 billion shilling smart driving licenses tender, have made an aggressive entry into the sugar industry. That is a story that you'll find on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And Tindaret Sugar Factory Limited and ABSS Trading Limited, basically the Nation have drawn sort of a ladder or a scale of how these companies are trying to get into the sugar business. And there is Soyit Sugar Factory Limited, and they are trading under the names of Bernard Soy, Alfred Soy, and Brian Soy, but also they are under Lena Chesang, John Paul Kiegon, and Stanley Kipkrui, and also they are connected to Mara Wealth Investments owner Jabir Contact Farid, and you'll find that web of those who want to take up the sugar industry in Kenya in the Daily Nation this morning. It is an extensive web. Now, governors step up resistance against executive decrees. That is a story that you'll find on page 6 of the Daily Nation. But also a puzzle of cost schools, learners, and lost billions. That is on page 2 of the Daily Nation. And the Cabinet Secretary, Migos, is pictured in the Daily Nation this morning. So grab yourself a copy of the Nation to get to read about any of those stories. News that are making headlines in the world of sport, and we started off with the Sen Lamens transfer. Manchester United agrees 18.2 million deal to sign a goalkeeper from Royal Antwerp. Now, Manchester United agreed a deal in the region of 18.2 million to sign Royal Antwerp goalkeeper Sen Lamens. The 23-year-old will signed a 5-year deal at the club. A deal sheet was submitted for United to complete the transfer beyond Monday's 7 p.m. deadline. And Royal Antwerp goalkeeper Sems Elame is on the verge, joined Manchester United after an 18.2 million deal and sign the Belgium. And the 23-year-old shortstopper has agreed a 5-year contract at Old Trafford and arrived in the UK early on Monday to undergo a medical at Carrington. That is some of the last minute transfer news. And in regards to Manchester United. And away from that now to Isak are forever grateful to Newcastle after Liverpool switch, and Alexander Isak says he will be forever grateful to former club Newcastle following his British record £125 million, an equivalent of 167 million US dollars, switched to Liverpool on transfer deadline day. Now, the 25-year-old striker joined Anne Slott's Premier League champions on Monday on a 6-year deal. Now, Isak switched to Anfield ends a prolonged saga after he effectively went on strike while searching for a move, and he did not feature in Newcastle's preseason or their opening 3 Premier League fixtures. Newcastle fans turned on former favourite Isak in his absence. And Sweden forward scored 54 times in 86 league appearances during his time at St James's Park, and struck in the League Cup final earlier this year as the Magpies clinched their first major piece of silverware for 56 years. And from that to a match, the only match that is going to be played today is in the CAF qualification Group F. That is in the World Cup qualifications, as Seychelles is going to be playing against Gabon.